Gold in the ocean.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the podcast of The Ordinary Maverick. This is Ajay, your host, an ordinary maverick, sharing real life thoughts and experiences and maverick tips. If you haven't hit the subscribe button yet, please do so, and you'll not miss another episode.
I'm sure many of you were curious about the title of this episode, just as I was when I first came across this term. Interesting is what I thought. One gets gold in the ocean? Really? The reality is that it's very difficult to mine the gold from the ocean. So, when we say finding gold in the ocean, what does it mean? Let's find out, shall we? In a way, it's related to the phrase we have all heard and I'm sure used it too, that is, time flies. However, right now, fellow Mavericks, I am seriously feeling that time is racing. We are heading into the last few months of the year, and soon 2022 will be over too. See, that's the thing with time. It's constantly moving. One experiences it but can't quite catch it or stop it. So, when I first came across the phrase finding gold in the ocean, I had all kinds of questions in my mind. And wearing my curiosity hat, I started digging deeper. Do we actually find gold in the ocean? What are the chances? How does one do gold mining underwater? Well, it seems that one study found that there is only about 1 gram gold for every 100 metric tons of ocean water in the Atlantic and North Pacific. Undissolved gold is also found in and on the seafloor deep in the rock. However, the ocean is deep, so that means that gold deposits are almost a mile or two underwater. Well, that's a long way in. Calculations have shown that there is enough gold on the seafloor to give every person alive 9 pounds of it. That would be worth about US dollars 150 trillion or about US dollars 2100 per person. Ocean waters around the world contain about 20 billion tons of gold in them, which, if you calculate at the price of gold, is worth about US dollars 771 trillion. This is about 41 times the GDP of US and about 10 times the entire world's domestic product. Gosh, quite something, right? But it's extremely difficult to get. Many people have tried and failed. It's not economically viable to extract gold from seawater. Over centuries, people have tried and are still trying to get the gold, finding ways to reach into the water and coming out holding gold. It remains a pipe dream for now. And that's when it struck me. Finding gold in the ocean is in some ways trying to stop time. It's the same phenomena when we say finding gold in the ocean. It's when one is trying to find something or running after something with the chance of catching it being slim to none. It's elusive. One can't really find gold in the ocean even though it's there. So why bother? Human nature is funny that way, don't you think so? We chase after things little realizing that what's critical is what we already have. Recently, I've had some very interesting conversations about life, happiness. Perhaps it's because the world is coming out of a very traumatic period, like a post-traumatic stress disorder of sorts. All of us went through a range of emotions and challenges in the last 2 years with the pandemic and handled it in different ways. As I exchanged notes with friends, family, acquaintances, it brought home the fact that ever so often we blind ourselves deliberately from the truth. We start believing in things, running behind finding something on hearsay, just like finding gold in the ocean, rather than just being in the present and in the moment. Let's go a little deeper into finding happiness that for many often feels like finding gold in the ocean. A real task, a bit daunting and ever so elusive and not easy to find. There are a zillion books, articles with a ton of research, and case studies on happiness, and everyone has their own take on it too. I'm no expert, but I would like to share a bit more from my side and my family's and some of what we have learned in our kind of nomadic maverick life and hope it will strike a chord with all of you listening in too. For us, the gold in the ocean bit, when equated with finding happiness, has always been about quality and not quantity. It's been about moments and memories and not about regrets. It's been about embracing change and not about complaining. Now, this may all sound very zen, and you might be thinking, oh, really? Oh, seriously? But for us, we have learnt it the hard way. To say our life has been what most people term as normal, well, it's far, far from it, and that's not it. We have moved 28 times as a family, lived across several different continents and cities, and done the unconventional things like changing career paths at the height of success, resigning and starting something afresh, challenging family norms, living in 4 different continents at the same time, and continuing to encourage each one's growth and aspirations, while staying bonded as a family, building and then leaving many homes. Well, you get it? The list is long. Our life has had many challenges too, but as we embraced change, we stumbled upon the lesson in simplicity. And that if you go about finding something, you end up far, far away from it. And so, if you go finding happiness, you only become more frustrated and at the risk of unhappiness. If you go about finding gold in the ocean, you get more and more bitter and disappointed and at risk of giving up. It's the same with time. Chase after it, and you will only get more anxious and challenged as the race doesn't seem to get done. So, what does one do? It's not easy to train yourself to relax, to be in the moment, to stop all the chasing and just enjoy the ride. Let me unpack this for you a little bit. Let's get back to the gold mining. You know, you might have seen pictures or movies of gold mining and prospective gold diggers using their gold sensors and moving around waiting for the signal to start digging. It's a neat piece of instrument, the gold sensor that is. Helps the miners in being focused and not waste time digging everywhere. Narrows it down, and then one can dig at the specific spot, and if you're lucky, you strike gold. Fellow Mavericks, develop your gold sensor and remember the Maverick formula and the first component of going with your gut and practicing mindfulness. This helps you tune inwards and understand what makes you find your gold, what makes you happy. Perhaps our lifestyle of constant movement has heightened our sensors to connections. As a family, we often speak about this aspect of our lives and the connections each one of us has all over the world. And that's what gets our sensors tingling and ringing, and we always strike gold. This past week has been a jackpot of sorts. Let me share why. We have traveled out on a short vacation and caught up with old friends and colleagues, people who either myself or my wife have known for a long time, but haven't been able to meet physically over long periods of time. And the range of this time gap is from 45 years to 12 years, which is when we last met some of them. Yes, you heard it right. Over 4 decades. See, nowadays with social media, one remains connected, exchanging greetings on special occasions and sharing key milestones, but nothing, and I mean nothing, can substitute the actual physical meeting. There is a warmth and a feeling deep in your heart that's a bit indescribable when you meet up with old friends, and that's what I term as happiness. Makes your heart fuller. I can now proudly say that I have been to 6 continents out of 7 and just have Antarctica left. I am currently down under in Australia and proud of all that we have managed to pack in a very short period of time. We have traveled to different cities and did some out of the tourist track type of stuff. More on that in another podcast. But most importantly, we met up with old time friends. It was, like a renewing and cementing ties kind of a trip. Funny how one remembers incidences even after 4 decades. What a fantastic memory chip our brains have. We experienced the warmest hospitality, loved meeting families that have grown since we last met with new members added, and that we didn't have an opportunity to meet in person, having only seen them in their pictures. Speaking of down under, wonder where the term came from. Well, apparently it's because of its position in the southern hemisphere. The discovery of Australia began when European explorers searched for a land under the continent of Asia. During our trip, we had an opportunity to taste some of the distinctive and iconic foods that Australia is famous for. I'm referring to Vegemite. If you haven't tasted it, you must. At least once. Now, whether you'll have it the second time, well, I'm not sure about that one. Vegemite is a thick, black, salty spread made from leftover brewer's yeast. The yeast is combined with salt, malt extract, the B vitamins thiamine, niacin, riboflavin, and folate, as well as vegetable extract, and this gives it the unique flavor. Aussies love it, and it was invented in Australia in 1922. In fact, many Australians are known to travel outside of their country with jars of Vegemite in their luggage for fear of having to do without it. It's a love it or hate it food, and generally one needs to acquire a taste for it. I have to admit, I am not crazy about it at all. But my wife, she seems to like it. And then we enjoyed toasties, which are toasted sandwiches, but just famously known as toasties, and enjoyed the show of hats and bright colored shirts and short pants. And I loved the flat white coffee, smooth taste with just the right amount of coffee and milk. Fellow Mavericks, happiness is a multi-way multiplier street. The more you feel it, the more it bounces around and multiplies. Ever met a person and felt happy? I'm sure you have, or can sense the happiness that comes from a person. Well, I can vouch and say from my own experience that nothing makes a person happier than connections. It's like that famous saying, no one will remember the exact words you said, but they will remember how you made them feel. It's the feeling that counts. Makes me think of reunions. School, college, professional batches. There's the spiral of circles that surround us and our lives. I call them our concentrics. When these concentrics keeps moving, that's when one strikes gold. I've mentioned the connection map in our earlier podcast, and I'm building it in now, and it helps one sees how the concentrics are moving. As we leave Australia and head back home, our hearts are richer, and I can say with confidence, we did find gold in our ocean. Keep your concentrics moving and do share your feedback and stories about finding your gold in the ocean at theordinarymaverick@gmail.com.
Do keep writing your comments and sharing your feedback via our Instagram at The Ordinary Maverick or through our hashtag The Ordinary Maverick. I love hearing from you. This is Ajay signing off and wishing you have an amazing day, a super amazing year. Keep well, stay safe. Credits. This podcast series was put together as a team effort from the Bhardwaj family. Concept, design, title, researchers and reviewers Ajay, Sanjana, Avantika and Niharika Bhardwaj. Script, Sanjana. Cover design, Niharika. All rights reserved.